Good evening and welcome, everybody. It is Monday, December 8th, 2025, and this is your Monday night true crime docket from Courtroom Confidential, the fastest growing true crime news channel on YouTube. Thank you so much, everybody, for being here. Thank you for coming back every single Monday. Those of you who join us, I see Shy Gal and Afton and Artsy Girl and Farm Girl. We've got all the girls in the chat. Thank you all so much. It really does touch us how many people continue to come back every single week, and we are very appreciative and feel very, very blessed that you've all decided to be part of the CC crew. Everybody's juiced tonight. I can see that already. We're looking forward to a very good evening, and we have a treat for you because we have a very special guest who I've been looking forward to chatting with for a very long time. So for those of you who are new, thank you so much for stopping by. I think you're going to enjoy this evening. Let me just introduce myself first. My name is Joshua Ritter. I'm a former prosecutor with the LA District Attorney's Office. I was there for about a decade, and then I left to go into private practice as a criminal defense attorney. And this is Courtroom Confidential, where we do our best. Our mission statement is to present to you both sides of the courtroom. And tonight's show is called our True Crime Docket, where we take a look at things that are taking place right now, continuing trials and hearings, and a look at the week ahead so that you know what to expect and pay attention to. So a lot for us to go through tonight. Obviously, Brian Walshe is the big case we're going to be talking about, a little bit of Luigi Mangione, and then checking in on some other cases, Becky Hill, Shanna Gardner, Rebecca Park, Nima Momeni, a lot of stuff for us to cover. But first, before we get to any of that, we have a very special guest that is Professor Jo Potuto, who is a professor of constitutional law emeritus at the University of Nebraska College of Law. And I just found out this evening that she spent a little time as a prosecutor too. She also has a brand new YouTube channel, which I want you all to check out and subscribe if you haven't already, called Professor Jo Explains, because she's got a tremendous background, a lot of experience, and I really love the way that she analyzes these cases and breaks them down. And that's why we wanted to bring her on this evening to talk about the Brian Walshe case, what's been happening over the last few days. And she's been watching it every single day in court. So she knows everything and she's up to date. So as always, stay to the end. We do have some announcements for you. I don't want you guys to miss out on those, but take a moment, take a deep breath. It's another new week. You made it through the weekend. It's Monday. Don't worry, it's going to be okay. Hit that like button if you haven't already. Subscribe if you haven't already. Share this with anybody that you think might enjoy it. But without further delay, hey, Professor Jo, how are you?
Hi, how are you? And thank you for that introduction. Wow.
Oh, absolutely. I love the kind of festivities you've already got going, the holiday decorations in your background there.
Yeah, I decided that capping gown, I'm going to decorate her for every season and every holiday.
I like that. That's good. I love it. Good. Maybe we need to get a little holiday festivities. Maybe I'll change up the color of the lights or something like that behind us. Thank you so much for being here. It was funny. We were talking about the last time, or maybe the last time, but one of the times that stood out to you that the two of us have shared a YouTube chat together was when I just had the birth of our third daughter. I've got 3 of them now, and I think that's where we're going to stop. Good Lord has decided to bless us, so we're not going to push our luck. And I think she was only a few days old when we were last chatting.
I think that's right. Yes.
I'm amazed that my wife let me do that, but then I'm so amazed too that you remember that because she's like 14 months old now. She already had her 1-year birthday.
Somebody should go dig up that clip because you were just such a cute new dad. It was just a delight listening to you.
Yeah, I don't care how many kids you got. Every time you have a new one come into this world, you do feel like a brand new parent again. And they're all a little bit older now, and they're all very vocal, and they're already yelling at me and bossing me around the house. So this is my escape. I don't get yelled at by all the ladies in the house when I come on here. So I want to jump into the Brian Walshe case, the latest things that have taken place. We'll actually go back to last week for a little bit to catch everybody up on what took place Thursday and Friday, and then the new developments today. But before we begin all of that, what are your general impressions of how the case is going? How do you think the prosecutors are laying this out? Do you have any opinions?
Yeah. Oh, I always have opinions. um, I think they're doing a pretty good job. I thought the opening was pretty good. The one sort of a tweak I would have made is I would have spent more time on the evidence that he has showing that Brian Walshe premeditated. There's not a lot, but there is some, and I don't think he did much of a focus with it. And I think he should have gotten the jury right at the start thinking about it with him. They also, and I'm not sure I understand quite why, but when they're putting in evidence, it is a very methodical, painstaking process. It's
Yeah.
one piece of evidence after another. They had all kinds of blood evidence today, and we went through them one by one by one by one. And I don't know whether what they're trying to do is get this sort of cadence, more and more and more, or it's just his style. But my style would be to do it a little more quickly, to get all the exhibits entered into evidence and then go back through and let your witness talk about it. I also think, and I may be entirely wrong, but Brian Walshe pled within the last week before the trial started. And I don't think the prosecution team had a chance to step back and pivot with regard
Huh.
to how they were going to present the case, because it seems to me in some ways they're still focused on a part of the case that he's conceded, and I think he's going to
Yes.
testify. And maybe they think it's the right way to do it because a lot of that evidence is really ugly, but I just get this sense that there's a little too much, and I can understand perfectly if they just didn't have the time to reassess at the last minute when he pled.
That's a really excellent point, and I bet you're right. I mean, this is a trial that is, I am sure, the largest prosecution taking place in that office right now. So I'm sure they put a lot of attention to it, into it, a lot of planning, and it might just be what you said. They didn't have enough time to kind of steer the ship, and they just said, let's stick with the plan. If he wants to plead, fine. This is still relevant evidence. It's still relevant that he's hiding her body.
Right.
It's still relevant that he's lying to police. But you might be right that they just kind of didn't have time to rewrite the script before they got into it.
Right.
It's interesting that you say too about this methodical presentation of the evidence. I feel like sometimes I think one of the biggest distinction between a very qualified prosecutor, who I think we have here, they're very good, they're very qualified, but kind of a brilliant trial attorney, is the ability to read the room and understand the jury and their attention span, and what you don't need to be so meticulous about, and what you can, like to your point, let's get that evidence in and then talk about it, rather than just take all this time to meticulously present it. You
Right.
think that might be what's happening?
I think so, but some of the questions are just, I wish I could remember some of them. Uh, it's almost like when you go into the house, what do you do first? Well, first you have to get out your keys and then you unlock the door. I mean, it is really, they're way back here in terms of presenting. Today was not bad because the evidence was so compelling. But last week when they were going through the phone messages and the Google searches and the text messages, even though they were compelling, it was just so long to do it.
It got bogged down.
Yeah. Now on the defense side, he had that one defense at the start, which is she left, and she was going back for this real estate emergency and he didn't know what happened. And then he's got those 3 or 4 days before he reports it to the police where he's getting rid of the evidence. He's dismembered her body. He's depositing things all over town or buying the supplies. Then he changes the defense to say, I was downstairs, I came up and I found her dead in bed. And they're running both of them at the same time at times. And I just think it may inure to their benefit because it can be a little confusing.
Yeah.
And that may help. I just hope the prosecution at the end doesn't go down all these rabbit holes and then just starts from here and goes straight to goal. Because I think the jury's going to need something to pull the string and do that direct line. You start at one goalpost and you just go straight to the other and don't zig and zag.
100%. I feel like, I mean, obviously confusion is the comfort zone of the defense many times. They don't want jurors coming out with a clear narrative of anything. If they're all confused, then those are jurors that are going to be confused talking to each other in the deliberation room. And maybe they come out with a hung jury, which is, would be, I think, a tremendous accomplishment in this case with the amount of evidence that you have in this case. And I don't think that's happening, but, they're going to certainly lean into any confusion they can find along the way. But it's the prosecutor's job to, as you say, not fall for all of those kind of wild goose chases and red herrings and just stay on course. And I hope that they're doing that in this case. One thing that you had mentioned was about you wish they put a little bit more time into premeditation. And I want to spend a moment on that because I've always felt that the weakest part of the prosecution's case was premeditation. It seems to me, just given his conduct, his text messages, his Google searches, even beforehand, he was searching for divorce. It seemed to me as though this were a person who was unhappy with his life, unhappy with his wife, and maybe planning for a future without her around, but not a future with her dead, if you follow where I'm going with this. And that it seemed like the murder happened unexpectedly to him. In other words, here you got a guy that can't stay off of Google, dozens and dozens of Google searches, but before her disappearance, nothing about, how do you get away with murder? Or, what are the best ways to kill your wife or anything like that. And I'm wondering if this was not as much of a premeditated, traditionally planned out murder that the prosecution might think.
Yeah. I think listening to the 6 days and listening to what the defense has been doing, trying to read a little between the lines, my best reconstruction of what happened was that week before, maybe from Christmas to New Year's, he was getting more information about how Anna's life in Washington, D.C. was going. He said something about getting some of her text messages on his phone. And that last week, she had gotten a necklace of some sort as a gift from the man with whom she was having the affair, William Fastow. Yeah. And there's a picture of her with the necklace on that he may have seen. That last week, he Googles those questions about where's the best state for a man to get a divorce.
Yeah.
And what kind of divorce can you get in Washington, D.C.? He's got 2 messages on December 25. She's late getting to the family. Her plane was canceled. And he's got one message saying plane crash in Washington, D.C. and another one that says Anna Walshe dead. Now, the defense has had responses to those, which is why I think the prosecution should go straight on the line. But he had things like that are sitting there in what he's doing those last few days. And I think he was genuinely equivocal about everything, as apparently was she, because she told William Fastow that she still loved him, that she wanted things best for him. She was talking about, apparently, even at the end, that to have them move down to Washington. At the same time, she's telling Fastow and she are planning to have this January 4 session about what their 1, 3, 5, and 10-year plans are. So I think she was on both sides of this.
Yeah.
My best guess is that necklace may have set him off. Yeah. Because that necklace is one of the things they found when they went through the trash. They only have the necklace has a kind of I don't know whether it's a horseshoe, but there's something on it. And then there's a little line, and it looks like what they found was that piece. And my guess is after their guests left on New Year's Eve, either she said something to him or he confronted her. And at that point, then what do I want and how are we going to go forward? He went straight forward to the murder.
Boiling point. It was a boiling point. It wasn't like your traditional kind of premeditation in the sense that he's planning it all out, but it was like almost like a subconscious premeditation. He was just waiting for some triggering moment, and he committed violence. I want to get into, you bring up William Fastow, so I want to get into him from last week. But first, let me thank Cody in Tennessee for gifting a membership. Appreciate that, Cody. Cody, always so kind of you. Allie Foley gifted a membership, everybody. Appreciate that from Allie. And Farm Girl, thank you so much for a gift of a membership. I hope everybody enjoys these. So last Thursday, the boyfriend, the affair, the Mr. William Fastow testified. What was your impression of him? I felt he came across as kind of a genuinely kind of concerned person about her. He seemed to handle the delicateness and the uncomfortability of the situation fairly well. What were your thoughts?
The same. I thought he was credible. He looked concerned. I thought he answered the questions honestly. I thought he was very good at answering the question and not going off on a frolic and just sticking to what he was asked. The questions that for him would have been favorable to Brian Walshe, he didn't hedge. He was very clear when he was asked about, didn't she say that she was still in love with him? And he said yes. He was very clear when he was confronted by the fact that he said his younger child, his son would be upset if he looked like he was going to be marrying another woman. He agreed to that, and those were things that would make it sound as though he and she were not, on the verge of getting married. So I thought he was very good. He looked miserable up there.
Yeah. I mean, this is a horrible thing for him to go through. I imagine, he didn't, I don't know if anybody wants to fall in love in a situation as messy as this, but it sounds like he was handling it as well as he could and being respectful of her situation. I mean, a couple of things that stood out to me was the way that he described Anna's desire to handle it with a certain amount of respect for Brian, I think is the best way to describe it. She said Anna felt it was really important that when Brian was to find out about the relationship, that he would hear it from her. Like she wanted to give him the respect. It was going to be over. It sounds like his feelings were, William's feelings were, but that she wanted to do it on her own terms. And she, quote, she had expressed great concern that I think she felt it would be a strike against her integrity to find out a different way. That seems like a fairly admirable character trait of hers.
Yes. And he also said that he had told her, I don't want to be thinking about going forward until you resolve where you are with Brian Walshe.
Yeah.
And I think that was not only sensible, but a pretty, nice thing for him to be doing. No pressure. You get your situation straightened out and we'll talk about ours.
Yeah. 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 So that was Thursday. Turning now to Friday, they got into a little bit of what we've touched on with these text messages while she's still alive. This is before her disappearance and death. And it was the defense tried to paint it as, again, somebody looking towards the future, planning for future events. This is a quote from Tipton saying they help frame a picture of communications about buying property, selling property, shopping for a Porsche, trading pictures between each other, all in the time period encompassing the December 25th up to the 31st of 2022. Good argument, you think, for the defense?
The defense doesn't have a lot to write on, so maybe the best they could do. And there was, you could read them that way. I remember thinking this is a family that is worried about money. He's got his mother paying the rent at the house. He's got that big $400,000 to $450,000 restitution that he has to pay for the federal conviction. He's not working. She's the breadwinner, and he's talking about buying a Porsche. I mean,
yeah,
it's crazy. But I think I don't know that they could keep. I don't know if there was anything better that he could do. The only question I would have is whether it was better not to go down that road at all. And I guess on balance, I think the defense was probably right to at least try to plant a seed of doubt in the jury.
Yeah. Yeah. But the other thing that came out Friday was Trooper Connor Keefe. These are text messages that Brian sent to Anna after her murder, after we believe she was murdered. And I'm curious, this to me really started to kind of take on a sinister feeling. I don't know what a better way to describe it. And I'm going to read a couple of these to you, and then you tell me how you think this, may have been received by the jurors. But on January 2nd, he texts her phone, "Hello, where are you? I still love you. Ha ha ha." January 3rd, "Where are you? I'm worried. Please call or email." Bizarre to say email, I guess. And then also, "If I don't hear from you this morning, I am going to report you missing."
Which he didn't do.
Diabolical, no?
Yeah. Well, if you match, in fact, I was saying this morning that I think the prosecutor might think about matching, putting in the dates so that at a certain time and day, what is he saying? What is he doing?
Yeah.
That it would be very
a great
effective
way.
because at the same time that he's sending those messages and he's Googling those, how do you 10 ways to get rid of a body, and how do you get rid of a smell, and all of that. He's also running around buying supplies. He's apparently bringing the kids to school. He's probably fixing them dinner. He's talking to her friends. On the 4th, he starts talking to the police. I mean, his ability to compartmentalize and do things that are absolutely opposed to each other at one and the same time is remarkable. And
sociopathic.
What? Excuse me.
Sociopathic.
Oh God, yes. And I really hope the prosecutor just tries to do that and match up, because it's so striking. And you're right. These particular texts to someone he knows is dead is just, it's just chilling.
Well, and to the prosecution's point, and let me read this very nice super chat from True Crime in a Minute. Says, "William grieving like Amy Adler after Dan's murder. This is also horrific. And those 3 boys had life and their mother ripped from them. Professor Joe and Josh, great duo." Thank you very much. Those are very kind words. And I agree with you. I feel like I don't say it enough, but to remember that there are children involved here who, again, lost their beautiful mother and now will probably be losing their father for the rest of their lives to prison. It's just horrific kind of stuff.
And they're in the house while he's doing this.
Yes. And he's bringing them along on, we're going to watch some video in a second, but he's bringing them along for some of this shopping spree. But I'm so glad you pointed out his behavior, because the defense is tragic, horrific, unexplained, sudden death. Right? Loving husband, sudden, tragic, horrific death of wife, and he panics and doesn't know what to do, so he decides to dispose of her body. To me, psychologically, a person who had genuinely experienced that, you would imagine to be in such a state of depression that they could barely get out of bed in the morning and put one foot in front of the other. But this guy almost has a rush of energy. Like you said, he's going to Lowe's and he's going to liquor stores and he's going to CVS and Walgreens and doing all of these things, taking the kids around, taking care of the kids, texting her friends, texting her. I mean, it's just like this kind of almost a manic rush of energy he's got in these following days.
Yes. And all the Googling. All the research he was doing. I mean, yeah. And the idea, what I think this jury is going to come back with a conviction is the idea that one looks at the person you love, the mother of your children, in bed dead, and your first thought is, I'm going to be blamed for it. Blamed for what? What would make them think there's anything to be blamed for? And then this person that you love, you proceed to chop up and put in trash bags.
Right.
Unbelievable.
Somebody in our chat, and I wish I could give them credit, brought up the fact that, listen, if you were worried about being blamed for your wife's death, wouldn't be the best evidence to vindicate you be her body? To say, look, she doesn't have bullet wounds in her. She doesn't have stab wounds on her. She doesn't have blunt force trauma. She died in bed. Take a look. There's no poison in her system. You know what I'm saying? But instead, the only thing that could vindicate him, he decides to get rid of.
Yeah.
Yeah. Remarkable stuff.
And this sudden, unexplained, or what is it? Sudden, unexpected death. You know, they spent a lot of time with that today. And I know I'm jumping, but they spent a lot of time with it today. And I thought, so what you're saying is sometimes somebody who's young and healthy dies. Mm-hmm. I don't know what this, I mean, I don't understand this syndrome to begin with. It seems to me, yes, that happens sometimes. And they went forever on it. And what does it prove?
Right. Right. I mean, listen, I am sure this is not in the realm of impossibility. I'm sure it's happened. I'm sure that people, you know, people have bizarre kind of heart conditions or something that you go unnoticed for years and years. And then they, you know, have a rupture in an aorta or something like that and die unexpectedly. I'm sure it happens. So today dealt with a lot of his activity in the days following. So first and I want to show some video here. So first we hear that on January 1st, 16 hours since she's last seen. So who knows how many hours since her actual murder takes place. He's going to the Lowe's in Danvers, spending close to $500 on mops, buckets, Clorox, hammer, wire snips, and a Tyvek suit. Did you happen to find a picture? I meant to tell you, Kaylin, of a Tyvek suit, just so everybody knows exactly what we're talking about. I know I sprung that one on you late. Don't worry about it. Just Kaylin, just give her 1 second. She'll find a Tyvek suit.
There's a picture that the law enforcement did, which almost looks like a person is in it, of a suit with booties and things.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I mean, if he hadn't, I imagine that this initial shopping spree is not the post cutting her up, but the planning to cut her up is the way that I view it. And he's planning on, it sounds like, making quite a mess. I mean, buying this Tyvek suit, which is essentially a full body suit to keep himself covered, mops, buckets, clean up, you know, stuff to cut her up with. I mean, it's really, really sinister and awful stuff. So here's some photos of him at the Lowe's. And just for everybody, you know, keep an eye out. I feel like next time you see somebody at Lowe's with this kind of a shopping cart, maybe just write down a license plate number or something like that, right? But it's just diabolical.
And it's the only time he wore gloves in all the other shopping missions that he went on, buying more cleaning fluids and everything else. This is the only time he wears a mask and gloves.
Yeah. And nobody else is wearing them. So he's obviously thinking, I mean, the same person who is so diabolical to think I'm going to text my dead wife's phone to act like she's still missing is the type of person who would think about, I'm going to wear gloves and a mask to go buy some of these items. I mean, he's really making attempts to cover his tracks, though he didn't do a good enough job, but he's making attempts to cover his tracks. There was the Tyvek suit in that last picture. Thank you, Kaylin, for finding it. But basically what we're talking about is almost like a hazmat suit. It's like a full body suit that covers you from head to toe, you know, and it would be used if you're cleaning up, you know, I imagine kind of toxic chemicals and things like that. And I imagine thinking he's going to be cleaning up something that's going to cause quite a mess. So he goes but then he's not just doing that, to your point. He's also going to liquor stores and other Lowe's and disposing of items. And then along the way, and here's some video from court today, the part that's just this, he's also bringing his little boy along with him. And I'm just, how does this come across? I mean, look at how casual this guy looks. His wife's dead body is likely in his house somewhere at this point, right? That's what prosecutors believe. She's in the basement, and he's walking casually into a Lowe's with their child.
Yeah. And at one point he bought non-itch Band-Aids and antiseptic cream, and he had gotten that cut on his thumb. And my best guess was that was to take care of his cut. And it just is, I mean, he's doing what he's doing, and he's worried about a little slit on his thumb and taking care of it.
Here's some more video I wanted to show you guys, and then I'm going to get to a couple of questions that you guys have here. This one, and I got to give credit to Jay Jabronius for highlighting this on his Twitter account today. But this is him realizing he's caught his own image in a video camera. Look at this.
Yeah, he's flirting.
Smile, chucking his hair, yeah, probably thinking about where's he going to find the next wife. Just, like I said, sociopathic type behavior for a person who apparently went through what should have been the most traumatic experience of his entire life.
Yeah. And how does this jibe with the defense theory that he was in such a panic? Does this look like he's in a panic?
No. Looks calm, collected, in no hurry whatsoever. I mean, that is somebody, quote unquote, feeling themselves when they look in a reflection like that and smile and adjust their hair. Just really takes on a sinister perspective when you think about it that way. Let's answer a couple of questions if you don't mind. I know a lot of people are curious to call upon your experience. But Pammy says, Professor Joe, please give us the official definition for premeditation. And if
I actually have Massachusetts, what Massachusetts says about it. So I'll give you a little of it.
There you go.
Let me start out with what it's not. It isn't what you think it is. It doesn't mean you need a week. It doesn't mean you need a few days. You can form the consideration to kill within moments. You just have to have the idea first, the thinking about it, then the decision to do it, and then the killing. And if you do it in that sequence, it can take a couple of seconds and it's enough.
Yeah. I've used this example before, and I hope I'm not overusing it, but we used to talk about this when I was a prosecutor in voir dire or even closing statements. The idea that when you're driving down the road and you approach a traffic signal and it turns from green to yellow, you think about it. You think, am I late for work? Do I got things to do? Am I close enough to the intersection, or am I too far away? And you think, do I have a chance to make it through? Do I care if it turns red before I get there? Am I going to stomp on the gas, or am I going to hit the brake? And you make a decision and you follow through on it. And that's premeditation. That's all it takes. Is just a matter of, like you said, a few seconds or moments to form that. So do you think there is evidence to support that here?
Yeah, I think all the evidence of him thinking about checking about divorce and what would a divorce take. There's evidence that he knew about the affair. There's evidence that he had seen a picture or something of that necklace. He's got the money troubles. He asks the questions about on Christmas Day about her dying. There are just little nuggets here and there, but I don't think this jury needs more than a couple of little nuggets, given everything he did that they know about.
Yeah. Yeah. And I just want to highlight, Purple Daisy had asked a very similar question as well, about this premeditation. Yeah, it doesn't take much. I think there's certainly, put it to you this way, there's enough for the prosecution with a straight face and a chin held high to make an argument for this in closing arguments with what they've presented and will likely continue to present. There is another question that I saw that I didn't want to miss. Julia DeNurse, whose qualifications for this question come in her title alone, says usually what happens with sudden death syndrome is typically a heart arrhythmia that would not show up on an autopsy or in blood work. And the defense tried to make a point of that today with the medical examiner, that there are instances where you would not see evidence of a condition, correct?
Yeah. Yeah. But very rare in someone her age in good physical condition. I think the ME also talked about that. But that's not the way. The way the defense put that in was not to focus on one possible way and then what you might know afterwards and what kinds of things might might contribute to it happening. I mean, they had one, he was talking about, well, if someone was on a plane, would that contribute? But nothing was a one this way and a one this way. It was a whole bunch of things over here and a whole bunch of things over there. And you just throw it up in the air.
One thing I'm curious about is I don't know if they've actually, the prosecution has tied a complete bow in all of this yet, but today they went through some of the items that were recovered. So they recovered the hacksaw, wire snips, hammer, knife, hatchet, all of these items, hammer, right? All of these items used to likely, in a very grisly way, dismember, we're guessing, and dispose of her body. Here's the other thing about this. He's going to have to explain this too. He's going to have to, why did you buy all of this stuff? You've already said you disposed of her body. Well, tell us how you disposed of it. Right. So I imagine he's going to go through all of this and tell us what he did with these items. So it won't entirely be a mystery unless he goes with something ridiculous again. But today we heard evidence that those contained blood. They came back positive for blood, but have they wrapped it all together yet? About
no, they need another expert because they haven't had anybody who can testify to the finding of the tying the DNA to Anna Walshe, and I think there's some DNA related to one of the sons. They haven't done that yet. And another thing the defense is trying to do, I believe, is he is asking questions of witnesses who are not in a position to be able to answer the question, to suggest at least one thing seems to be that the law enforcement didn't do an adequate job. So he's asking the person who's collecting the samples, well, did you go out to the dumpster and see what was going on? Not his job. And he's done that repeatedly.
Kind of a defense tactic,
yes.
Lots of times, I think. And it's easily uncovered by a good prosecutor. But yeah, it kind of a cheap shot. And Kathy, thank you so much for the super chat. Says the worst is when he is out and shopping. He has his kids in tow. I know. It's just horrific stuff. I can't imagine him not being an absolute puddle of emotion given all of this, but he is just seems happy as can be. Where do you want to go next, kids? Get some ice cream? I mean, it's like he's got, another day out shopping.
And I think what's really chilling also is that he tells at least in one point here that the 6-year-old, when he was with his first story, that the 6-year-old heard her get up and went downstairs to say goodbye to mommy when she was leaving. And he talks about that child as when there's noise around the house, that child would get up. And here he is doing this in the house and apparently not concerned that one of those children will wake up and come downstairs and find something or see something. It's awful.
God, you imagine that? Even if they are upstairs and he's downstairs in the basement, I just, you use the word compartmentalize. It is like on a different level, on a sociopathic level, his ability to compartmentalize.
Well, and I'll tell you, one of the things I thought about as this was going on, with the murderers we know that were murdering a wife and then a child wakes up and they end up murdering the kids too. You have Chris Watts, who's murdering his wife and he ends up killing the 2 little girls. And you go back to the Green Beret killer, he's murdering his wife and ends up murdering the whole family. It's just scary what could have happened.
Yeah. I hadn't even thought about that, but you're right. Who is to say he would have stopped short? A person who's willing to do this, who's to say that he would have stopped short?
With a 6-year-old who certainly can testify as to what daddy was doing.
Oh,
if he'd been awake.
You just gave me chills.
It's awful.
Just sickening. Yeah. 2Dog Mom, thank you so much for the super chat. Says happy Monday, true crimers. Happy Monday, right back at you. Hey, it's Nashay, has been a member for 6 months. Everybody, golf clap. Happy holidays to the Ritters and Kaylin. Thanks for bringing us this amazing channel. Oh, you're very sweet. I appreciate that. One last issue I wanted to ask you about. And I have kind of surmised this before, is that I have always wondered, first of all, well, let me see. Somebody asked this question, so I don't want to steal their thunder. Let me see. Where is it here? Hold on. Give me 1 second. Oh, somebody asked about him testifying, and I thought, yeah, I want to make sure to touch on that.
Yeah.
But my question is essentially, yeah, well, Ms. Annie is asking, do you think he's going to testify kind of in the narrative form, or do you think he's going to traditionally testify? But somebody else said, does it look like they're setting him up today through the testimony to have to testify? I feel like him testifying got set up from opening statements. I mean, it's like, I don't know
His
how
lawyer
else.
said he will
Oh,
testify.
here we go. Shy Gal says, Professor Joe, it felt to me today that they are setting up Brian to testify. Do you think he will have to testify after today? Yeah,
His lawyer in opening said he was going to testify. There was only one person that we know of, only one person in that bedroom, plus Anna Walsh. The lawyer went through what the defense is. If he doesn't testify, you've got a defense lawyer in opening who has said things that are not in evidence. I think the lawyer can claim he had a good faith belief this client was going to testify, and then his client changed his mind. But nonetheless, that's a pretty awkward place to be. And I'm just wondering if the judge will give an instruction of some sort on it if Brian Walsh doesn't testify. And if he doesn't, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I agree with you. I think it's a disaster for the defense at this point if he doesn't. I mean,
a disaster if he does, because I just
right.
I can't imagine him surviving this cross-examination. I don't even think he can get this out in a consistent fashion on direct, because those two defenses are so different. Yeah,
it's going to be all over the map. One thing, though, I was thinking about, and I had kind of surmised on this earlier, is that there is an opportunity for him, if he were to testify, to talk about her health leading up to this. And maybe, oh yeah, Anna was complaining about spells of lightheadedness, and there were, we were worried, and we were talking about her going to the doctor to get checked up on that. And to that point, one thing that may have gone missed today was the defense asked her coworker, Teresa Marchese, about a breakout of Legionnaire's disease at her workplace. Did you catch that? What did you make of the moment?
Yes.
What did you make of that moment? Do you think that's where they were going with this, that she could have had some inexplicable disease she was carrying?
I thought maybe that's what it was, but it was just a maybe, because I doesn't see how it will work. I mean, it's so self-serving. You've got the person at the gym who said, gee, she was in great shape. She was doing those bar classes 4 times a week. There's no information from anyone that she was anything other than in best health, and she cared about being physically fit. Yeah. And then you get one self-serving comment from the person who killed her. I don't believe a jury would believe it for a moment.
No, it's going to be quite an experience when he actually testifies. And I agree with you. I think she is going to testify. Professor Joe, you're so fantastic. Thank you so much for going through all of this with us. Is there anything we're missing? Anything that stood out to you that you feel like people haven't really talked about?
Not in the evidence itself. It's on the murder 1 count, because I've heard people say, well, then it'll just be murder 2. And in Massachusetts, it can't be murder 2 unless either the prosecution or the defense asks the judge to instruct the jury on murder 2.
Interesting. There's not a sua sponte duty to instruct on
no,
that?
apparently not. And I don't see that the prosecutor is going to ask. If they were willing to let him get off on murder 2, they would have, done a bargain before this started. And I don't know whether Brian Walshe, because he was so pleased. That's the thing today. He was so pleased with the way the evidence went in today. He thought the defense had a great day today. You could just see it in his demeanor and his smiling. I don't know whether he would decide to request the lesser included be charged.
Does that work out the same for the manslaughter? Like they have to request it?
Apparently, we asked a lawyer who practices in Massachusetts, and she said either one side or the other has to ask, and then the judge has to decide to agree. I think the judge would if one of them asked, but
I would be shocked if they didn't ask the defense for a manslaughter, because I feel like the arguments are best suited for that. The evidence, not the arguments, but the evidence. I mean, to me, like I said at the beginning, I feel like this did not seem like your traditional scheming, planning for days type of murder, and it could easily be argued as some sort of heat of passion thing. Now, they would have to make one hell of a
Pivot.
if you don't believe that, believe this sort of an argument, but they could, say, hey, and at the end of the day, the best that you have here is a manslaughter, but we don't agree with that. I don't know.
Yeah.
I just feel like they'd be
Well,
leaving some low-hanging fruit out there.
Yeah, I would think if the defense asks and the judge is inclined to agree, that the prosecutor should then ask for murder 2 to be in there also.
Yeah.
As
No,
the
I agree. Right.
compromise.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, thank you again. Everybody go to Prof Jo Explains right after this and subscribe. And thank you again so much for your time and expertise.
Thank you.
I really appreciate
You have
it.
a great program. I love your Sunday fun Sunday,
Sunday
whatever
fun day.
you say. Yeah,
Yeah.
I just think that's just wild. I just love it.
Thank you.
So
Leave us
great
a message. Ask us a question. I'd love that. You're the best. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Take care. All right, guys, don't go anywhere because there's a lot of other cases I want to cover for this week. So at least get all those updates. And then, like I said, we always have some announcements for you. But Best Nancy, thank you so much for gifting the Courtroom Confidential memberships. Appreciate that and your generosity. Flora Paris gifted a membership, everybody. Appreciate that, Flora. Did I miss anything else? Okay. Big thanks to Professor Jo. She's fantastic. Incredible experience. Love hearing her break these things down. But let me just quickly get through the other things that are taking place this week, because that's part of why we do these Monday night dockets. First of all, Luigi Mangione, his case is still ongoing. It was expected to go all of last week, but I don't think they expected it to bleed into this week as much as it has. Part of that was they were dark on Friday because he had the sniffles and couldn't come to court. But today they were back at it. These hearings, folks, do not usually take this long. These suppression hearings take an afternoon, a couple of hours, 30 minutes sometimes. For this thing to be taking over a week is pretty incredible, and for the amount of witnesses to have been called. So he is certainly getting his money's worth out of these attorneys. And according to this smug photograph that was captured and all over the internet today, he apparently feels like today went pretty well for him. You imagine that? You imagine taking the life of a father and husband, and you're in court fist bumping for how the court went. Listen, I'm not trying to say that all the people accused of crimes should be sitting in complete contrition during every single hearing, but just pretty fantastic stuff with the ego with this person. The other thing I was thinking about today is, if you're so proud of what you did, if this was part of this cause and this movement and this had to be done, and you're this courageous warrior fighting for the little people against the large corporations, admit it, dude. Stand up proudly and say, yeah, I did it. Why are you hiding? Why are you claiming you didn't do this? Why do you got this high-powered, expensive defense team? If you want to be this martyr, be this martyr. But, I digress. Anyhow, he was back in court. We heard testimony today from Officer Christy Wasser, who was with the Altoona Police Department. Remember, this is all about the arrest that took place in Pennsylvania at a McDonald's, and whether or not they can get the items that were recovered from his backpack into evidence. They were done without a warrant, which is true. Whenever you don't have a warrant, this is the type of hearing you're going to have. You're going to have a suppression hearing based on probable cause. If there was a warrant before they did the search, we wouldn't be having this hearing. We might be having a hearing attacking the validity of the warrant, but we wouldn't be having this kind of suppression hearing. So this is all about the Fourth Amendment, probable cause, reasonable search and seizure. And today we heard that this officer said that she wanted to check his bag for bombs. And the defense tried to make great hay out of that, saying, well, you didn't clear the McDonald's, did you? You weren't really all that concerned about bombs. You didn't bring in the bomb squad, did you? No, you did not. Trying to paint it as though this was kind of a phony explanation for why she needed to look into the backpack. A couple of things here, though. If you've been doing this long enough, you've seen all of this before, and you know exactly how this is all going to play out. There's two big concepts at play here. One is search incident to arrest. Pretty much the only argument needs to be made by the prosecution. You're going to arrest someone. You're allowed to search that person. You're allowed to search what's on their person, and you're allowed to search their personal belongings, because you're going to be taking this person into custody and putting them in the back of a squad car and bringing them to a station. And you want to make sure they're not armed with weapons or drugs or any other contraband or paraphernalia. To add to that, her idea of this bomb is not entirely far-fetched, because apparently Altoona PD had a previous incident where someone had not been properly searched, and a bomb did make it into the station in custody. So it wasn't just she's picking this out of nowhere. They were really concerned. They wanted to make sure this didn't happen again. The other thing that's taking place is what's called an inventory search. So, you're arrested. They bring you back. They're allowed to inventory your items. Part of that is done so that they make sure they return to you everything that was on your person when you were arrested, when you get released. So none of this is just so, abusive of the Fourth Amendment that I think it will be kept out. So that's the latest on that. The other thing he's arguing is about his statements. Again, that comes down to custodial interrogation. Was he in custody when they were first talking with him? He had said at one point he didn't want to talk. Did that mean that their questioning had to stop? Not necessarily. He's not in custody. He's not under arrest. He's not asking for an attorney. They're allowed to continue to question him. You have a right to remain silent. You have to exercise that right. Your right to remain silent doesn't mean the police have to automatically stop when you say, I don't want to talk, under certain conditions. If you say, I want an attorney before I'm saying a word to you, very different set of circumstances, and you're dealing with the Sixth Amendment at that point. So I think all of this stuff is coming in. It's just kind of remarkable to me how much attention and time he's being given by the judge. And again, the continuing kind of bizarre celebrity status he has taken on. So that's ongoing this week. In court today also was Becky Hill. You remember Becky? There she is. She was the clerk for the Alec Murdaugh case, and really just unforgivable type of stuff she did. I do believe she had way too much inappropriate contact with the jurors in that case, far too cavalier of an attitude with the jurors in that case. And it extended beyond that, because today she pled guilty to obstruction of justice, or not pled guilty. She was actually sentenced as well. Obstruction of justice, perjury, misconduct, several counts of that. She apparently was showing sealed court exhibits, gruesome crime scene photos to photographers and reporters and the media. Just come on, just really bad stuff. This is the biggest case that it was in that county in generations. And this is how she was handling herself, conducting herself. She was also taking bonuses for a book she planned to write, a tell-all about this whole thing. Oh, yes, Becky, says Song Bits Laura. Yeah, bad moves, Becky. So she got 3 years probation. And some people are saying, well, no, why not prison time? Well, she's not some mastermind criminal. This wasn't a crime of violence. She doesn't have a criminal record. She messed up big. So probation, I think, is probably entirely appropriate here. Also today, Shanna Gardner, who did something far worse than what Becky did, she was back in court. She is accused, obviously, back in February of 2022 of taking part in the murder for hire of her husband or ex-husband, Jared Brightigan. He was a Microsoft executive. She planned this, according to prosecutors, along with her current but now estranged husband, Mario Fernandez. They hired a gentleman by the name of Henry Tenon to ambush him and shoot him to death. They were just checking in today. Trial is now set to be on track to begin in the summer of 2026. And the judge is planning on bringing in hundreds, literally, of jurors, 100 jurors in the morning and 100 in the afternoon. Ambitious. Not that many jurors. Not that I'm questioning that many jurors. I think they probably will need a lot of jurors. But you're telling me you're going to get through 100 jurors in the morning. I don't know how they do jury selection entirely in Florida, but that seems like going through a lot of people really quickly. But again, remember that the latest on this case was that the death penalty is no longer on the table. The prosecution filed a motion to have the death penalty removed, which we are now, initially it was reported and there was no explanation given. Now the kind of latest we've heard is that his family, Jared's family, is in support of that decision. So it looks like they were consulted. Oh, there he is. That little baby, by the way, was in the car when he got shot. Really sad stuff. So his family is in support of taking the death penalty off the table. I think it's probably a good move too. It'll fast track this whole thing. It'll streamline the whole thing. It'll just make it a lot easier to handle. And it's very difficult to get a conviction with the death penalty against people who are not the actual triggermen. And that's what Shanna and Mario were. Remember, Henry has flipped and is apparently still attempting to cooperate, and we'll see how that all works out because he's kind of getting cold feet. And thank you, Kaylin. We do have a case notes on this, so please check it out. The YouTube, the link is attached. We put a lot of work into it, and we hope that you guys enjoy it if you want to get caught up on that case. Tomorrow, Rebecca Park. Talk about horrific, nightmarish cases. This is the young woman who went missing November 3rd. Her body was discovered on November 25th in Wexford County, Michigan. Her mother, Courtney Bartholomew, and her stepfather, Bradley, were arrested for her murder. And the story goes that they forced her into a vehicle, drove her out to the woods. This is graphic. I'll just give you a quick warning on this. Forced her out to the woods, stabbed her, and then removed her baby. She was pregnant. She was full-term pregnant. Removed the baby from her womb. The body has never been found, recovered, of the child. I can't. It is hard to fathom something more evil and horrific than the way this young woman met her end, by her mother's own hand, by the way. But the updates this week are, along with these arrests, Rebecca's sister, Kimberly, who's 21, and her fiance, who's in his 40s, that specimen right there, Richard Fowler, were also arrested. But they were not charged with anything in connection to the murders. So it's just curious how this all happened. At least we haven't been told that. Kimberly's been charged with tampering with evidence, lying to police, and false reports. Is that connected? Unclear. Richard has been charged with delivering methamphetamine. Both of them had extremely high bails, which were reduced to $5,000, and they were released from jail last Wednesday. So unclear why these arrests took place during the same time, if there's any connection to the murders. But they both have their preliminary hearings set for this Tuesday, tomorrow. We'll keep you updated on that nightmarish case. And then finally, this Friday, a case that we followed for a long time because not more than anything, it was a case that a lot of people were interested in. But I used to be roommates with the prosecutor on this case. A really, really good attorney by the name of Omid Talai prosecuted this case out of San Francisco. So I'm very proud of him and the work that he did on this. But Nima Momeni was charged with stabbing to death Bob Lee, the Cash App founder. This was all some sort of bizarre jealousy. Bob was apparently involved romantically with Nima's sister, and the whole thing turned into this nightmarish mess. He is set to be sentenced on Friday. He's looking at 16 years to life. But the latest with this psychopath is that he's decided to sue everybody. He's suing the Standard, the LA Times, the New York Post for defamation, ladies and gentlemen. He's saying that they have disparaged his good character, a convicted murderer. They have trashed his good character and good standing in the community, and he's seeking $17 million in a defamation lawsuit. I think that is going quickly to nowhere, but he did it. but he'll be sentenced. He'll be handling all of that from behind prison bars because he's likely going to get sentenced to 16 or more years to life in prison for the murder of Bob Lee. So that's what's happening this week. Let's get to some announcements for what's happening from Courtroom Confidential this week and some little special items we have for you. But please take a moment to listen really quickly to our sponsor here. In the true crime stories that we cover on this channel, we see every day how people get stuck in negative patterns that shape their entire lives. And if I'm being honest, I've had my own struggles with negative patterns. The kind where you tell yourself, I can handle this, even though you've been stuck in the same cycle for years. What I've learned is this. Breaking those patterns alone can be impossible. We all think grit and willpower will get us out of it. And sometimes the thing we avoid, asking for help, is exactly what makes change possible. Having someone outside your bubble who can actually challenge those patterns, that's what made the difference for me. So I'm glad to share BetterHelp as today's sponsor. They make starting therapy easier. You just fill out a short questionnaire and they'll match you with a licensed therapist who's trained to listen and give you helpful, unbiased advice. And if it's not the right fit, you can switch anytime at no extra cost. BetterHelp accepts both HSA and FSA cards, making it even easier to prioritize your mental health. In 2024 alone, over 137,000 people use their HSA or FSA benefits for therapy through BetterHelp. So be sure to use yours before they expire. Click the link in the description or go to betterhelp.com/courtroomconfidential and get 10% off your first month of therapy. All right, everybody, I want to tell you about our website. If you go to thecourtroomconfidential.com, you're going to find three very important things: messages, membership, and merch. First of all, every Sunday, you heard Professor Joe talk about it. We have a show on this channel called Sunday Fun Day, where we answer your questions that you've left us throughout the week. But you have to leave us a message. And the best way to do that is to go to thecourtroomconfidential.com and click on leave us a message. Ask us about true crime. Ask us about cases that you're following. Ask us your questions about the law. And we will do our best to answer them live every Sunday at 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern. Memberships, a lot of gifts of memberships tonight. Can't thank you guys enough for your generosity. It really warms our hearts and it helps us to keep the channel going, quite frankly. So we appreciate that and your support. And if you want to become a member, then go click on become a member at thecourtroomconfidential.com and you can learn about all the different benefits of that. And we put a lot of work into it to make it worth your while. And finally, merch. The holidays are coming up, don't you know? We've got all sorts of new colors in t-shirts, including tonight. I saw seemed like the vast majority of the comments were all about the t-shirt. Therapist, says it's body bag blue, like that. Blueprint for Schmurder. Bailiff Blue, says Afton. Moments in Trading, says Blue Pill. Very clever. Farm Girl says it's Midnight Mischief. All of you are very, very clever. Purple Daisy says it's Defense Denim. Midnight Moody Blue, says Alicia K. Mayo. And Kathy Mamba Bear says it's Jailhouse Blue. Oh, I like that. Jailhouse Blue. Well, we've got it. I don't know what the real name of it is. By the way, when I disparage these names, it's not us naming it. It's coming from the factory, and we always just think they could have put a little more creativity into it. But if you want this color, what is it? In case anybody wants to check it out. If you want this color or any of the other colors that we have, this is kind of our fall palette, but we've got a bunch of other stuff available to you. Ezza 1990, thank you so much for the super chat. Appreciate that. They're all up on the shop. It's called Midnight, everybody. I really like this color, by the way. I wear this one a lot. But we also have some special holiday themed items for you available. Could you make it a little bit bigger, Kaylin? I can't read what's on them. I know one of them says, yeah, sleigh bells and subpoenas. Love that. I run in true crime and Christmas cheer. And your ugly sweater says merry motions and jolly verdicts. So we've got all of that stuff, plus tumblers and sweaters and new shirts and mugs and everything that you could want, all the stocking stuffers, and pajama pants, everybody. So check it out at the shop at courtroomconfidential.com. Finally, what did you miss? Well, this weekend we had our Sunday Fun Day. It was great. The questions were fantastic. Really enjoyed it. We talked about Melody Buzzard and Rebecca Park, Laura Owens. You guys know about this case? It was brand new to me. Go watch it if for nothing else to see the part where we talk about Laura Owens. Really troubling new case that we're kind of diving into. Jammy Pants are 100 says, oh, I missed it there. True Crime in a Minute says Jammy Pants are 100. Thank you so much. They are. Why don't I have a pair of those? By the way, I should have a pair. I like jammies. So that is Sunday Fun Day. It's already up on the channel. Please check it out. Coming up this week, Brian Walshe on our sister channel, Courtroom Confidential Live Trials. So not on this channel, but on our sister channel, go to CC Live Trials. And we are covering gavel to gavel every single day of the Brian Walshe trials. Day 7 starts tomorrow. Please check it out. Everybody who's in the chat tonight, hopefully will be in the chat there tomorrow, and you can chat with all your friends and watch the trial together. Wednesday, back here on this channel, we have Wednesday Night Live, where we're going to be catching up on Brian Walshe and all things taking place in true crime. And we have our special guest, Joel Waldman from Surviving the Survivor, will be joining us. I'm very curious to hear his take on this case. He's always got a clever and witty way of viewing these things. And then on Friday, a couple of things happening for you. First of all, on Fox Nation. Fox Nation is a streaming service from Fox. And I have been very honored to be part of a brand new weekly series that they have there called The Weekly Rap Sheet. It's hosted by Paul Morrow, Donna Rotuno, and myself, all of us attorneys, all of us involved in the law enforcement side of things and now defense side of things. Really great conversations that are so we've already had 2 episodes out. Our newest episode is going to be coming out this Friday noon it's not December 5th. That's last Friday. So it will be December. I can't even do the math. What is this What is this Friday? What date is that? The 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th at 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific. And we're going to be talking about a lot of the cases that are taking place this week, and kind of broader cases as well. Some interesting stuff, but certainly a little bit on the Mangione case and the Brian Walshe case. We'll be weighing in on all of that. And I will be announcing this when I have further details. They're still trying to work out what exactly we're talking about, but we love to take your questions. So if you have a question about Mangione or a question about Brian Walshe, go to the weekly rap sheet at fox.com. That's the email address. Send us an email. And you guys have been fantastic. We've taken several questions from the Courtroom Confidential community already. So keep them coming, folks. We appreciate them. And then stick around. Don't go anywhere. Just go from Fox Nation right over to our channel at 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 Eastern. We're going to have our weekly roundup where we're going to cover everything that took place this week. Everything we've given you a preview on now, we're going to be covering on the back end on Friday. And then Sunday Fun Day. As always, every Sunday, 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern. All right, let me give a special thanks to some of our newest members. Tina Greek, Reba 5870, Braddy Babs Loves, YouTube Hazel, LEB2, Sharon Mephisto, Eatery Terry Cat, Really I See You, Patsy C, Gibrath 7, Tracy Smith 3076, New England Coast, Tracy N. Moland, Indy Asham, Natty Latrina, Wisconsin, or WI, and Grace Carver. You guys are all fantastic. Thank you so much for joining the CC crew, and I hope that you enjoy it. Special shout out and thanks again to Professor Jo Potuto for coming on and sharing all those insights with us. Special thanks to our mods, Afton, Shigao, Kathy, and therapists, for keeping everybody in line tonight. Kaylin, you're fantastic as always. And Tiffany, you are the best thing that ever happened to me. Thank you guys, and we will see you all back here again on Wednesday. Take care, everybody.